Hi. Okay, in this short little video, I am going to take you through how to develop really interesting and exciting characters using Ayurveda. And I will explain in 2 seconds what that means. So I am going to share my little screen here. So, what's really great about using this method is that it is so overwhelming writing a book. There is so much to think about, like, let alone your writing journey and creating characters, writing great dialogue. What about the plot? What about the structure? Like, your head can be literally about to explode, let alone starting to think about publishing, self-publishing, traditional, it's a minefield. So in this video, this is going to really simplify a way to come up with really exciting characters, just so that you don't have to waste any time thinking about this and you can get into writing and get that first draft down. If you would move, it would be helpful. So, great characters. What are great characters? Great characters are in conflict with one another. And this conflict stops the book from being boring, and it also forces your character to grow. So, the reason why we fall in love with some characters is because we grow alongside them as we read the book. Now, I'm going to give an example of Pride and Prejudice. I presume you've read it. If you haven't, read it. And if you're going to watch it on telly, watch the BBC version. It is amazing. But we grow alongside our characters. And when we start reading Pride and Prejudice, we get introduced to Mr. Darcy. And in the beginning of the book, he seems like a right pain in the backside. And this is how we see him through Elizabeth's eyes. But as the story evolves, they keep bumping into each other and there's constant conflict between them. But they have a really positive effect on one another. And by the end of the story, they've both evolved and become better people because of that conflict and because of one another. So at the start of a book, we have our characters' journeys over here. There's resistance. They don't want to grow. We can kind of see it. We go, come on, what's going on with you? Like, can't you see that you need to just jump in and do this thing? But there's resistance, conflict. And then by the end of it, they evolve. They don't actually kind of fall that way, but by the finish, they have actually evolved into a better person. But there's a lot of lumps and bumps along the way. So, Ayurvedic psychology and the elements in personality, this is absolutely wonderful. And nobody teaches this. And I don't know why, and maybe they will start after this, but I have learned this through being a life coach. And I thought, why not just use that for, it's great when you're working with coaching or you're using it for in relationships, how to heal relationships. But I thought this is perfect for developing characters in a novel as well. So Ayurveda is a philosophy that originated in India about 3,000 years ago, and it means study of life. And the word Ayurveda comes from the Sanskrit word ayas, I have no idea how to say that, meaning life, and Veda, as in Darth Veda. Sorry, not funny. Which is science and knowledge. So the dosha is a Sanskrit word, and it refers to the energetic forces that make up a person's body and mind. And in Ayurveda, these doshas can help you determine your character personality types. So there is Pitta, which is fire and water, Kapha, earth and water, and Vata, which is air and water. So this is all going to make a lot more sense in a second, and I'm going to give you some cracking examples. So the different personality types when we think of Ayurveda is when you think of fire, these are your power people. They are decisive, they don't muck around, they're just go, 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 but they can very easily burn the people around them because they often don't stop and think, how is it affecting other people? This is just the pure red version. Obviously, people are more complex than this, but it doesn't matter when you're creating your characters. So these are on the extroverted side. Then there is yellow, which is air, and they're your bright and bubbly people. They're positive, they're enthusiastic, they have lots of ideas. Then on the left side, we have your green earthy types. They like to process things. They're more slow moving. They can drive the reds absolutely batty because they want to go away and think about it. They like the data, they like the information, and then they will make a decision. Whereas a red person, they can be in conflict all the time because one is trying to go and one is going, stop, put on the brakes, we need to think about this. So makes very exciting dialogue and great friction between characters. Your blue, your water types, they're all about people. They want harmony, they want to take care of the group, they go with the flow. So sometimes they can be indecisive, also drives fire mad. Um, so the bottom here is your heart-led, your feeling types, and the top is more your head-led thinking types. So that is an absolute crash course in Ayurveda and personality types. So just to give you a little bit more on what your red types might look like, if you're sort of starting to frame up how that might turn into a personality. They're short, they're sharp, they're gone, they speak clearly, concisely, they're prepared, they're organized, they like to just make decisions quickly, and they can be sometimes unemotional. Because remember, they're very head type. They're not really led by their heart. But your yellows are more heart-led, and they're enthusiastic and chatty, and they're kind, and they like to inclusive, but they also like chitty chatty chatty, and they can be sometimes like overly positive, and they might drive your analytic type absolutely bonkers because they're all, let's have a chat about this. And your green types are like, just show me the facts and enough with your chitty chatty socialization. So your greens are more quiet, slow-paced and calm. They like the details and they like time by themselves. They can need a break from yellows because they can find yellows a little bit too full on. Your blues are more, they're warm and they're friendly and they're supportive and they're appreciative and they're really trying to look after the group. So what does that look like when we come to actual characters? So I'm going to go back to Pride and Prejudice again because I just absolutely love this book. So both are very red types. They're very strong, and this is why they brush up against each other so much, because they're both actually very powerful people and they won't be deterred from their thinking. So they tend to not see eye to eye and they have a lot of friction. So Elizabeth is your more bright and bubbly. She's always very social, whereas Mr. Darcy is green. He feels very awkward in a crowd and he feels uncomfortable. But she's always pushing him and trying to say, you know, well, you need to practice at this. And so she's pushing him to evolve. He often says to her that she just makes up her mind like that and that it wouldn't hurt her to slow down a bit. So he's also getting her to kind of bring in a bit more of the green. But ultimately, they're both very blue, and this is why they fall in love because at the end of the day, they're very kind, lovely people. And they do really care about people. They're people at the end of the day. And this is why she falls in love with him. Because if he was just red and green, she probably wouldn't, because that's more of your no, Barbara, stop it. So anyway, now, obviously, the predator guy, he just wants to eat everybody's face off. He is very much power, but the bad side of power. When we've got Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he is power, but he is the good version of power. And this one I love because Superman, we've got Clark Kent, he's very introverted, but he's also very kind. And when he steps into Superman and he puts on his cape and he flies around, he's doing all his power poses. He is very much red, he's decisive, he is taking action, but he has got a heart of gold and he would die for anybody and he would look after them. And that makes a fabulous superhero. And you'll even see this with Spider-Man as well. Like it's very classic of these cartoony characters to have that kind of quiet, introverted side, and then they put on their cape and away they go, and they turn into more red and power. So I hope you got a whole ton out of that. I said that very fast. But the whole point of your characters is that you need them to follow that character arc. They need to grow and evolve by the end of the book. And if you select your different characters, you select them out of the different colors and the different personality elements, it just makes it easier to then start thinking, how would that character speak? What would they say? How would they feel in that situation? And it just gives you some lovely clues, and it also helps you then figure out, why does that mean they're in conflict with the other characters? It's just a lovely stepping stone, and I hope it serves you well. And that is all I have for you today on character and Ayurveda.